Now, let's do verbal reasoning test. At ito ay medyo matagal lang nakapost sa Philippine Civil Service Review for All, isang FB group, at I think na-post ko rin ito sa isa sa FB group na lagi nating tinatambayan. Now, ang gagawin nyo ay i-post nyo muna ang videong ito para masagutan nyo itong number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, at number 5. Ngayon sa videong ito, i-discuss natin kung paano nga ba sagutan ang mga ganitong klasing tanong. Now, para naman sa mga bago pa sa channel natin, ito yung FB natin. Ito namang Philippine Civil Service Review for All FB group kung saan pwede kayong pumunta sa mismong files ng grupong ito. At dyan yung makukuha lahat ng mga libreng printable na reviewers. Ibang mga FB groups na lagi nating tinatambayan. At itong verbal reasoning na to ay nakapost dito sa Philippine Civil Service Review for All at I think na-post ko rin dito sa Civil Service Exam 2021. Na-update na yata ito. Ang name, maybe 2022 na yata. At FB pages na posibleng makatulong sa inyo. Kung gusto nyo i-email ko sa inyo yung mga libreng printable na reviewers, ibigay nyo na lang, dito nyo lang i-message sa isang FB page natin na Lunalin Vlog. I-message nyo lang, mas magandang dyan muna i-message kaysa dito mismo sa FB natin. Kasi kung dito nyo i-message, makikita nyo na kung seen ko ba yung mga messages nyo. Now, para masagutan nyo yung 5-item na verbal reasoning test natin or quiz, ang tanong, what is a verbal reasoning test? Verbal reasoning tests are type of aptitude test. They test your ability to understand and respond to questions about information provided in a passage text. Examine your ability to reason and critically examine various concepts with the use of words and language. Requires you to filter out key points and information from a longer piece of text and require use of your literacy and verbal reasoning to understand the concepts in the passage of text. So how the verbal test actually works? A test taker is advised to read a given passage of text. Paalala lang, sa actual na exam, may time limit. So practice reading with your eyes only and read fast. And then consider the questions which are presented as statements corresponding to the passage. They are then required to decide whether the statement given is true, false, whether he or she cannot say, given the information contained in the passage. What to expect from a verbal reasoning test? The aim of verbal reasoning test is to simply assess your ability to comprehend written passages by measuring your reasoning, your logic, and your understanding of the language. The most common type of verbal reasoning test present you with a previously unseen written passage followed by a series of questions with 3 possible responses: true, false, or cannot say. Ang true, if the statement follows logically from the information in the passage, kung ano lang yung nandoon mismo sa given. False, if the statement does not logically follow given the information in the passage. Cannot say if it is not possible to determine if the information follows logically from the given information, yung tipong hindi naman napag-usapan. To excel in verbal reasoning tests, you will have to distinguish between these answers, kung true, false, or cannot say. Verbal reasoning tests examine whether you can critically dissect the information received as opposed to jumping to conclusions. Next, verbal reasoning test. Do not assess the language skills per se. Instead, they are focused on critical reasoning on written information and its meaning. By the way, when it comes sa English, hindi ako masyadong magaling dyan kumpara sa mathematics. Pero, during my time, sa estudyante pa tayo, kaya kong i-maintain yung more than 90% na grade sa mga subject na English. Kaya, i-share ko lang sa inyo kung paano kahit hindi magaling, maka-perfect pa rin tayo. Just a quick short story lang. Dati, nag-take ako ng departmental exam sa English. 100 items yun. Hindi ko makakalimutan kasi na-perfect ko siya. Kaya hindi ko makalimutan yun kasi ako lang yung naka-perfect pero hindi ako yung pinakamagaling sa klase nun. Kaya sinasabi ko lang sa inyo na kahit hindi kayo magaling sa English, kung praktisado kayo at intindihin nyo lang yung mga rules or kung paano kaya ito, makukuha nyo pa rin yan. Moving on sa ating verbal reasoning, require analysis of only what is in the text passage and ignoring any implications you would make based on what you already know. If it is very important that you answer using only the information contained in the passage of text. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Kung ano lang yung mismong given, hindi kailangan yung alam mo na dati yung regarding sa storya na yan. Hindi yan kailangan. Focus ka lang kung ano yung given information. Verbal reasoning are typically challenging daw for non-native English speakers like us. Pero hindi yan problema sa atin kasi nasa kinder pa lang tayo, tinuturuan na tayo ng English. Next, verbal tests include 5 major types in 2 subcategories. Meron tayong verbal critical reasoning. This assess your logical ability to infer whether a statement following a text passage can be verified by the information provided. Meron tayong reading comprehension. Assess your ability to read and comprehend written information and answer questions regarding it quickly and accurately. Now, under naman sa language and literacy test, mayroong grammar and spelling. Under pa rin yan sa verbal reasoning test. And this assess your knowledge of proper grammar and spelling. Sa vocabulary, assess your range of vocabulary as well as your ability to correctly identify relationships between ideas, mainly in the form of synonyms and antonyms. Word analogy. Assess your ability to identify relationship between ideas implied by a given word pair and your ability to think methodically. By the way, ilalagay ko sa description ng video ito kasi mayroon na tayong mga na-upload yung mga tips regarding dito sa vocabulary. Pareho lang yan sa word analogy. Now, let's go back sa ating 5-item na quiz. Sa actual na exam, read this with your eyes only as fast as you can. Then, basahin natin yung question number 1. If the temperature is low, crude oil remains in a solid state. Whereas if it is too hot, it becomes gas. The answer here is obviously true at na-support yan sa last na sentence. Below this range, the crude oil remains kerogen. Ito ay solid. Above this point, the crude oil becomes natural gas. Therefore, ang answer dito ay true. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng above this point, yung below this range? Ano bang pinag-usapan dito? Yung range sa heat. So, nasa number 1, if the temperature, heat man yan. So, if the temperature is low, crude oil remains solid state. Yan si kerogen. Whereas, if it is too hot, it becomes gas. So, ang answer dito sa number 1 ay true. Number 2, crude oil is non-renewable. Na-mention ba ang regarding sa non-renewable or renewable dito sa mismong passage? Kahit yung tipong Synonym na lang niya. Na-mention ba siya dyan? Hindi siya na-mention. Although, in reality, totoong non-renewable si crude oil. Pero, hindi kasi siya nabanggit dyan sa passage. Kaya ang sagot dito ay letter C. Cannot tell. Next. Kerogen becomes crude oil after further heating, pressurization in the catagenesis process. Hanapin lang natin yung mga words na yan. Meron tayo ditong catagenesis process. Further heating, yan yung prolonged exposure to heat and pressure. Heat and pressurization. Let's read the entire sentence. Following even more prolonged exposure to heat and pressure, the kerogen eventually becomes transformed into liquid and gases via the catagenesis process. Obviously, ang sagot dito ay true. Number 4. The creation of crude oil takes place over many 100,000s of years. Ang tanong, meron bang nabanggit regarding dyan? Yung regarding na takes place over sa mga kung ilang years ba yan, na-mention ba siya sa passage? Hindi siya na-mention. So, ang sagot dyan ay cannot tell. Next, number 5. Oil can also be produced from plant matter such as olives and sunflower seeds. Laging tandaan, kapag hindi na-mention sa passage, although kung meron kayong prior knowledge na ang oil ay pwedeng maproduce sa olives at sunflower seeds. Pero, hindi siya nabanggit dito mismo sa passage. Kaya ang sagot, cannot tell. Kaya sa mga ganitong klaseng exam, hindi importante na alam mo kung anong meron sa crude oil. For example lang. Kundi, ang importante kung ano lang ang nabanggit mismo sa passage. Ngayon, kailan magiging false ang sagot? Magiging false lang ang sagot kung mismong sa tanong nabanggit siya sa passage, kaso nga lang mali. Bali nabanggit talaga siya sa passage. Pero nga lang, mali siya or yung opposite niya, yung mga ganyan, pero nabanggit siya. Ang sagot na cannot tell, hindi talaga siya nabanggit sa mismong given na passage. I hope meron kayong natutunan sa videong ito. I know hindi ako masyadong perfect sa pronunciation at alam ko rin hindi ko ma-please ang lahat. Pero I suggest focus lang kayo kung saan may matutunan kayo. Thank you and God bless.